Hey team, how are you doing? Welcome to the Kim Constable podcast. Nobody cares. Work harder. I've decided to go back to my original catchphrase because I've actually just realized through going through a massive restructuring in the company this week that nobody actually does fucking care. So you really should just get your head down and work harder and quit complaining about it because life is for living, life is for taking by the balls and moving forward. And that is exactly what I am doing in my life. And that is what you are going to be able to do in your life after today because I have an incredible episode jam packed for you which is all about life hacks. I am the kind of person who likes to make the most out of everything. So I like to find the shortest way I can possibly find to get the best possible outcome. I've always been this way. And I think it's because I was brought up this way. Like my family are all this way. We're all about fixing things, getting them done, making them work the best they can possibly work. And it's definitely served me in my life. And so I was thinking this week, one night I was lying in bed and I was just really thankful for the fact that I can get really good sleep, that I have kind of, my sleep all sorted. I have my hacks sorted, around my rest and recovery. And it just occurred to me that actually some of the hacks that I have, although a little unorthodox, would actually be handy for you guys to hear and know. So that is what today's episode is all about. Now, before we get into the content, I just want to let you know that some of the things I'm going to talk about today are unorthodox practices. Some people may have a reaction to them. A full disclaimer. I I think a lot of people have a misconception about me sometimes. I get a lot of people wanting to punish me on social media. If I post something about me drinking alcohol or I have a sunbed, a tanning bed at home which I always rent in the summer just so I can remain tanned in the summer. I find that it's better if I build up a slow tan, and then whenever I go on vacation I don't burn. I also like to be brown, and so whenever I post things like me in the tanning bed or me drinking alcohol or me, God forbid, taking sugar in my coffee, people sometimes get really shocked and they're like, oh, I can't believe that you're promoting this. I'm like, why not? Because you're the sculpted vegan, you're a health influencer. I'm like, whatever you believe about me is entirely your constructed belief. It's not who I am. Who I am is who I am, and I'm unapologetically me, and I am all about life hacking. I am not about optimizing health and being at the very, epitome of health. That people always get really surprised sometimes whenever, they find out I'm on peptides or GLP-1s or hormones, or, they'll say, oh, have you tried this natural remedy for this thing you're having? I'm like, fuck the natural remedy, give me the drugs. And they're really surprised. They're like, I thought you would have been all natural. I'm like, what in God's name gave you that impression? But I think it's because they hear the word vegan, they see sculpted vegan, they go, oh, she goes to the gym and she's got a great body and she has an online fitness company. So therefore, she must be the epitome of health and fitness. I'm like, absolutely 100% not. That is not my highest value. It's not my goal. My goal is to live life to the fullest, to have a lot of fun without hurting my body. That's completely different than, holding being, some holy grail of fitness as your highest value. I want to have a lot of fun. I don't want to hurt my body while I'm doing it. I don't mind hurting my body a little bit as long as my body can recover, which the body always can. And that is what I'm all about. So sometimes the things that I talk about or sometimes the things that I teach people do tend to have a reaction to. If that's you, please understand that it's your reaction. It's nothing to do with me. And whatever you made up about me in your head is completely your own constructed belief about me and really nothing to do with me. So disclaimer before I start. So I've got some notes here. Where do I want to start? What have I written here? I said, I am one of life's problem solvers. It is in my DNA. If something is broken, I want to fix it. This is at the crux of everything I do. When someone complains to me about a problem, I usually have a solution. This is not because I believe I am superior to them, but it's because I believe I am in the driver's seat of my life. I am not a victim of my life. I am in the driver's seat. I am the causing agent in my life. And if something is broken, I want to fix it. If I don't have a solution, I'm going to find it. I don't believe that anyone is responsible for me, my health, my family, my life, except me, which is why I live a life full or without blame. I do never blame anyone for anything. I take full responsibility for every single thing that happens to me in my life and how I choose to react to it. And I hope that, this will inspire you to live that way as well, because even though it's definitely hard sometimes to really look at where you're responsible for every single thing that happens in your life. It's actually very freeing, because when you look at where you're responsible for the things that happen in your life, you feel you have the power to change it. If you're a victim of someone, if you are the kind of person who'll blame someone else and say, oh, it's because of her that this happened, or if she hadn't have done this, or he hadn't have done this, if my husband hadn't have reacted this way, or hadn't have said this thing, or hadn't have, done this thing, then I would be okay. Well, no, that's not true, because you chose to marry the person, you chose to be in business with the person, you chose to be friends with the person. So if you are blaming someone else for the fact that you decided to get into a relationship, or have some kind of interaction with that person, that's completely on you. Okay. So I'm being very forceful today, right? I'm very like, Kim is taking life by the balls today. No shit, Kim. You've got no shit, Kim, today. Okay. Because definitely I think I'm going to have a period at some point. And when I'm going to have a period, I'm literally in my take no shit mode. Okay. Estrogen is very low in my body right now. With estrogen, or when estrogen leaves, so does your give a shit factor. So very little give a shit factor today, just as a warning for this episode. So buckle in. Okay. So let me tell you actually just a quick story to start about where I realized what my family was like, and where I realized where I came from, because I definitely am the kind of person who fixes things. In the office here, they call me Miss Fix It. Miss Fix It. If it is broken, it gets fixed. If it is cleaned, if it is dirty, sorry, it gets cleaned. If it is untidy, it gets tidied. Okay. I am Miss Fix It. And they all laugh at me. But I realized kind of where I came from a few years ago, whenever my dear little grandma was in hospital. My beautiful little grandma. She unfortunately has passed away now, but she was kind of at the end of her life. She was about 97, 96, 97 at the time. Long, happy, full life. But her health was failing and her sodium levels were low. And she was suffering from congestive heart failure, which is basically where your heart isn't able to pump blood effectively around to your organs. So, quite often, what can happen is your kidneys become compromised, which means that they can't balance the sodium and potassium in your body. And so you start to retain a lot of water. When you retain a lot of water, your sodium levels get diluted in your blood. When your sodium levels get diluted, it affects your brain. You can die from it. And so she had been suffering from, excuse me, she had been suffering from um, water retention for a while. Okay, edema, water retention. And it got to the point where she was on a diuretic for it, but it wasn't really keeping it at bay. And she started to get very fuzzy in the head. I think she fainted one day, and so she was admitted to hospital with very, very low sodium levels. And it really was touch and go for a while. Now, my family are the kind of family who rallies around. Like, we rally when someone is ill or when someone needs something. We all come together, and so every single member of my family, her two daughters and her son, who's my dad, and my two aunts, and then my sisters and I and my other cousins, we all took turns to make sure grandma wasn't left unattended in the hospital. She was in a private ward, which isn't always possible here in Northern Ireland because we have a national health service. Quite often you can be on a ward with other people, but she was in a side ward in a side room on her own. And so we all took turns in the family to stay with grandma. So we stayed with her around the clock, 24 hours a day. We never left her. She didn't want to be left alone. And so each one of us stayed with her. I stayed with her through the night a few times and held her hand and helped her. And we, looked after her. We bathed her. We fed her. We really nursed her back to full health. And she went on to live another year, actually, once she was out of hospital. But what what made me laugh one day, because we started a WhatsApp group of the people in my family who were caring for grandma, and so that we could all communicate with each other about who was staying the day, who was staying the night, who was looking after her, that kind of thing. And so what happened was, in the WhatsApp group, one day my aunt posted and she said, has anyone noticed that the window in grandma's room is broken? And there was this high window, and the window kind of whistled a little bit. It just, whatever way, the pane wasn't broken. The catch that closed the window was broken. And it was a high rectangular type of window with a catch. And she said, has anyone noticed that the window was broken? And I said, yes, I did notice it was broken. And I noticed that there was, kind of wind or whatever whistling through it. Grandma was in hospital in the winter. And dad said, yes, that window's driving me bananas. I'm going to fix it. And Gwen said, oh, well, that's good, because she said, I was going to, bring some tools or whatever, and I was going to fix the window. Dad said, don't worry, I'm on the next shift. I'm going to fix the window. And so then he said, and by the way, has anyone noticed that the tap in the bathroom is broken and the sink is draining quite slowly. And someone else had said, yes, I noticed the sink is draining very slowly. The sink must be, blocked, whatever. So dad said, great, well, I'll bring some sink unblocker and some tools to fix the tap. And I was laughing my head off because that's the way our family is. And so the next day, my dad arrived with his tools and he was up on a stool and he fixed the window, right? Fixed the clasp on the window. The nurses were like, oh, we've never known a family like this in our entire life. Fixed the clasp on the window. My aunt brought in a plunger and some, sink unblocker, and she unblocked the sink, and my dad fixed the tap. And there was something else I can't remember, wrong or whatever. And we just sorted it out. We wanted grandma to be as comfortable as possible. And we could have complained about the window, we could have complained about the tap, we could have complained about the sink, but we didn't. We didn't complain about anything. We just decided to take matters into our own hands. The food in the hospital was terrible. So we set up a rota to all cook for grandma. We had it all organized in a family chat, who was cooking, who was bringing, who was, whatever. We had like a little, grandma loved her condiments. And so we had a little basket full of all these different condiments, brown sauce and red sauce, and her little sprinkles that she liked in different things. And so we cooked for her around the clock. We set up like little tea stations with the type of tea that she liked. We didn't accept that she had to eat hospital food and she had to sleep in a room where the window was broken or the tap was broken, sink was broken. My family, when grandma was in that room, and she was there for, I think, about a month, I want to say, we had every single thing in that room fixed. Every single thing that was broken was fixed. Her food, her nutritional needs were met, exactly the way she likes things was done. Her washing was, done on a rotation with the washing powder that she likes. We had absolutely everything spick and span and fixed within an inch of its life. And it just made me realize what our family is like. My sisters and I were laughing about it. We were like, any other family or normal person would have just accepted that the window was broken and the tap was broken and the sink was blocked, and they would have complained to the hospital and they would have tried to get the nurses to fix it. But what we realized very quickly was the nurses were overrun in the hospital. They didn't have the time to give grandma the care that she needed. And so we didn't say, well, she's in hospital, they should take care of her. We said, well, she's in hospital, we're her family, we know what she likes, we'll take care of her. And the nurses actually, whenever we left, said that it was the best patient they'd ever had, because it really took a huge amount of burden off them having to care for grandma, because people normally get upset with the nurses and the doctors and think, you're not taking care of my loved one the way that you should, rather than thinking, well, the care of my loved one and how I want them to be cared for is my responsibility and I will take care of it. And so that's when I kind of realized where I came from. I am the kind of person who just wants things to be fixed. I want things to be run efficiently. I want them to be done the best way possible. Very quickly, we had an organized system within our family for food for grandma, care for grandma, washing for grandma, fixing things within the hospital. Nothing overlapped, no one was messy and on top of each other. Very, very quickly, the family was organized into a system to care for grandma, which meant that she left hospital, went back home, and lived another year of a long and healthy life. And I do honestly believe it was because of the care that she received. And just on a side note as well, my sisters and I, we went down, we took it in turns to go down, once a week. My aunt was there every day. My other cousins were there. Grandma lived such a long life because even though she lived on her own, we all took it in turns to take care of her, to cook for her, to look after her. She had, full time round the clock care, but it didn't actually fall to one person. It was split amongst the whole family, and we were all happy to do it, because that is what families do. They pull together and they make it happen. So what has that got to do with today's podcast? Well, I think that most people have the attitude of, it's not my problem to fix, right? I have the attitude of, if I can fix this, why would I not? I detest complaining. Now, don't get me wrong, I do complain sometimes. In fact, I complain frequently. But when I complain, I never complain to victimize myself. I complain because I'm voicing my feelings and voicing my thoughts, because it helps me to organize them. I don't voice them to complain or to blame. And I think that there's a big difference. I think that, people will complain and complain and complain about something and want someone else to fix it for them, but they won't fix it themselves, which kind of leads me into the first life hack that I want to give you. And this is something that all menopausal women suffer from. So I'm going to blow your mind here with what I'm going to tell you, hopefully. But I really want you to think about the simplicity of what I'm saying. And I really want you to think about taking responsibility for your own life and the things that are important for you and to you in a way that you probably never have before. So, sleep. Let me tell you the sleep story. my husband is a gentle snorer, a gentle snorer, not he doesn't snore loudly enough that you can say, "Oh my god, this is a real problem." He snores gently. And so what would happen for years is that he would fall asleep very very quickly, but it would take me a lot longer to fall asleep. I didn't realize that the problem was that we would get into bed, I would settle down to go to sleep, he would settle down to go to sleep, and then because he fell asleep before me, he would start gently snoring. But just as I was drifting off into that REM sleep, just before you go into your deep sleep, he would let out a just like loud enough to kind of jolt me awake again. And I think as mothers and women, we're programmed to wake up quickly whenever we have to. So he would snore just loudly enough to kind of jolt me a little bit. And I would then be awake, right? And whenever you've fallen asleep and you've drifted off into kind of a nap like sleep and you've been asleep for maybe 5, 10 minutes, and then you wake up, it's almost like you've had a nap and now you can't go back to sleep. So what would happen would be we would fall asleep, he would snore, and I'd be like, oh, then I'd be awake, and then he would start gently snoring, and then I would go through the whole, oh my god, he's snoring, but he's not snoring loudly enough to wake him, and then I would say, or oh god, I don't want to wake him because if I wake him, then and he's awake. It's not fair to wake him. God love him, he's sleeping. I'll try and get to sleep again. And so I realized that he had this 45-minute sleep cycle where he would lie and snore gently for 45 minutes and then he would turn over. And he would always wake up after his deep sleep cycle and then he would turn over on his side. I knew that when he turned on his side, I had 45 minutes to get to sleep, or he would turn onto his back again and he would start snoring again. So I would then wait for him, or maybe it was a 30-minute, can't remember, 30 or 45-minute sleep cycle. He would turn on his side. I'd be like, great, oh my god, he's turned it aside, fantastic. Or I would give him a little nudge or kind of and try and get him, or say, Ryan, turn over. So then he would turn over and then he would stop snoring. So then I would go into panic mode. I'd be like, right, have to get to sleep really quickly because I've only got 45 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever, to fall asleep before he turns on his back again. So quite often I would get to sleep, or sometimes I wouldn't get to sleep. But either way, once I was asleep, I didn't really hear him because he doesn't snore loudly enough to wake you up. Sometimes he lets out a big and that will like wake me up, but most of the time he just snored gently enough, so it didn't really wake me up. So this went on for years, and I honestly didn't think that there was a solution. And I would wake up in the morning, I would say, Ryan, you fucking woke me up again in the middle of the night snoring, or I couldn't get to sleep. And I just thought, I've always been quite a bad sleeper. And I thought that my sleeping issues were me not being able to get to sleep. I would lie there and lie there and lie there. And then, of course, the longer I lay there, the hungrier I got. And then I'd have to get up and get some toast, and then come back to bed. And sometimes this was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I still wouldn't have been to sleep. And I thought that the problem was me. And I knew that, but then I realized it was like, no, actually, the problem isn't me. The problem is that Ryan's waking me up with his snoring after, just after I fall asleep. He then falls asleep, wakes me up with his snoring. That's actually the issue. But I didn't know that there was anything that I could do about this. It really was. And it was really beginning to hurt our relationship because I was angry with him. I was like, and angry with him in such a way that I knew it wasn't his fault. He wasn't trying to snore and he's asleep. He doesn't know that he does it. But it really was hurting our relationship insofar as I was getting angry and resentful of him because he was snoring all the bloody time. So what then happened was I thought, one day I was like, you know what? I am going to sort this issue out. I thought, I wonder if I sleep with earplugs, will that make a difference? So I thought, yes, okay, gonna sleep with earplugs. So this is about 2 years ago. So I bought a pair of earplugs. I thought I'm gonna buy the most expensive earplugs that I can find. I have really small ear canals. Like I'm actually completely deaf in my right ear. So whenever I lie with my deaf ear up, I can't really hear much. But Ryan's snoring was still loud enough to wake me up through the deaf ear. So completely deaf on my right ear. I always sleep with my deaf ear up so that, it muffles the sound quite a bit, still was waking me up. So I didn't need two earplugs. I only needed one. So I bought these really expensive silicone earplugs, but they kept falling out of my ears. They just didn't work. But I was determined I wasn't going to give up. So I kept searching and searching and searching and bought all these different types of earplugs. And then I thought, I bet you there's earplugs for children because I was told I have the ear canals of a child. So I found these, and I'll link to them in the show notes. I found these earplugs that are kind of shaped like spaceships in a way. have like a curved bit at the top and then a flat bit at the bottom, and you roll them up so they're quite small, and you push them in your ears. And because they have a little flat bit in the bottom that you can put your thumb on, you just hold it. You hold your tragus, which is the bit in the front of your ear. You hold that closed once the earplug's in place, and you hold it there and then let the foam expand so the earplug fills the ear canal. Now, I found these earplugs and I thought, right, I'm going to try these. And I put the earplugs in. I put the earplug in one night, and it was like someone had created a vacuum in my ear. It was unbelievable. I was completely and utterly deaf. It was actually disconcerting. It was so bad. And that night I put the earplug in and I went to sleep, and I couldn't hear a bloody thing. I couldn't hear Ryan snoring. I didn't hear him getting up at night. I didn't hear anything. I was in a complete cocoon. Now, they did hurt my ears in the beginning. I would have woken up in the middle of the night quite often and then just pulled the earplug out because my ear was aching because it's not used to having an earplug in. And it did take, I want to say it took several months to get used to the earplug because they are, it is uncomfortable to learn to sleep with them. But Brian snoring and waking me up was more uncomfortable and had been going on for years, that I thought, no, I'm going to have to persevere with this. Because once I told Ryan about it, of course, then he was like, well, I'm going to get earplugs because the kids wake me up playing their computer games and stuff in the middle of the night. He ordered earplugs, decided he was going to sleep with earplugs, tried them for 30 minutes going to sleep, threw them out, never put them in again. Because Ryan, the kids waking him up occasionally wasn't a big enough problem for him to overcome. So, whereas me being woken up every single night was a big enough problem. So, I was like, you see, it just shows human beings only change when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. The pain of staying the same, which was listening to Ryan snore every night, was so great that the pain of the earplugs was less. So, I persevered with the earplugs, and within about 6 months, I was completely and utterly used to the earplugs. Now I don't even feel when the earplug is in. Like, I put the earplug in. Sometimes I go, oh shit, did I forget to put my earplug in just as I'm falling asleep? And I put my finger in my ear and I'm like, oh yeah, it's there. I don't even feel it anymore. My ear has now changed shape to accommodate the earplug, and I can put it in really snugly, completely fine. Earplugs have changed my life. It's not really just the snoring with Ryan. I don't hear anything when I go to sleep. Now, the best thing about it is if there's ever any noise or the kids are shouting with their friends or whatever in the middle of the night, it used to be me got up and Ryan would have waited for me to go and, sort the kids out and say, please be quiet, stop, stop making noise. I don't even hear them now. Ryan gets up. He's the one who has to deal with any noise in the middle of the night. He's there. I am in my little earplug cocoon and I don't hear a thing. Earplugs have changed my life and saved my marriage, which leads me into the next sleep hack: a silk sleep mask. Okay. So our room, even though we have blackout blinds and blackout curtains, we have three huge windows in our bedroom. And in the summer, here in Belfast, it doesn't get dark until 10:30 at night. There's still light in the sky at 11 p.m. So whenever you go to bed at say 10 p.m., it is bright daylight outside. And I need to sleep with the windows open because being in menopause, I am fucking hot all the time. So we can't actually pull the blinds down because we need to have we pull the blinds down, the blackout blinds, and close the blackout curtains on two of the windows, but on one of the windows we leave the blinds up, but we close the curtains. But there's light that comes in all around the curtains. And in the morning as well, like I like to get up super early, but in mornings I don't get up super early. The light comes in at around 4 o'clock and wakes me. Sleep is extremely important to me. I run a big company, I train a lot, I'm very busy. I need my sleep. Sleep is where your body regenerates itself. So I bought a silk eye mask, again, which I will link to in the show notes. Many people on YouTube ask me where the show notes are. The show notes are just the description underneath the video. So if you click on the video and then go to the description, that's basically the show notes. Just a very fancy way of saying description. So I bought, just from Amazon, I bought a silk padded eye mask. It's extremely comfortable to sleep with. You literally put it around your eyes. It has a little bridge for your nose. You just put Velcro it on the back, sleep with your eye mask. So now, whenever I go to bed, I put on my silk eye mask and my earplugs, and I am in a total cocoon. Pitch black, completely sound free, and my sleep is better than it has ever been in my life. Whenever I travel on a plane, I usually fly business, and so I will bring my earplugs and my eye mask on a plane, which means that you can literally cancel out all the noise and you can sleep on a plane. Even if I wasn't flying business, I didn't have a flat bed, I would still do it sitting in economy because it just cuts you off from the world, cuts off your senses, brings your focus internal, and allows your body to rest. So here's the other hack that I want to give you for sleep. One more that we only discovered this year was, even though I'm now in my cocoon with my, earplugs and my eye mask, we Ryan and I, neither of us move very much at night, but he likes to sleep with the duvet wedged in between his knees, whereas I sleep with what I call a hugging pillow. And so quite often he will get into bed at night and he will then tuck himself in with the duvet and he will tuck it in between his knees. And then I will get in on my side. I was like, Ryan, give me some of the duvet. And I'm like, Ryan, I don't even have enough duvet to cover me. And so every night we have this tug of war with the duvet. We have a massive super king bed with a huge duvet, but we were having like a tug of war with the duvet. And it was always, one of these things where you're just like, oh, this is so fucking annoying. Or if I, was in bed before him, which doesn't happen very often, and then he came to bed, he gets in and he shuffles around and pulls the duvet and then he pulls it off me and I get a gap down my back. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. And then he wakes me up. There's nothing worse than being woken up whenever you've gone to sleep. And there's nothing worse than sleeping with a duvet stealer. And so I would say 6 months ago, I said to Ryan, I have an idea. But we enjoy sleeping together, by the way. Like, we don't want to sleep in separate rooms. We tried that years ago when the kids were young and it just didn't work. So it didn't work well for our relationship. So I said to him, I have an idea. Why don't we have separate duvets? And he was like, really? And I said, why not? Tell you where we learned this. We went away on vacation 2 years ago and we rented this beautiful villa in Marbella in Spain. And they had these beds called Jensen beds. And I keep saying I'm going to buy them because it was literally the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in my entire life. A Jensen bed, Jensen, and they were Scandinavian. And whenever we went in, I was like, oh, there's two duvets on the bed. And I was like, are they two singles pushed together? And we were like, oh, no. And it actually was. It was a super king bed, but it was actually two single mattresses. It was a one flat bottom, but two single mattresses on top. So it gave you a lot of, you didn't feel there was a join in the middle or anything. It gave you a lot of independence and you couldn't really feel the other person moving, but you could come together for a cuddle or whatever else. In the middle of the night, whatever, you were still together, but you didn't have the annoyance of the other person bouncing or jumping around the bed. But it had two single duvets. And I remember thinking, oh, this is awful. Like, I like it. We snuggle with Ryan in the morning or snuggle at night. Well, that vacation were like game changer, game changer, two single duvets. But we never did anything about it when we came home. We still slept under the one duvet. But it got to the point where I'm so hot at night. I like a lighter duvet. Ryan likes a heavier duvet. We were having all this duvet tussle and I would kick the duvet off. When I kick it off, he then pulls more of it and then I try to pull it back and I have no duvet. This drove me bananas. So I said to him, I'm going to get my own duvet and I'm going to sleep with my own duvet. So I went and I bought the most beautiful Hungarian goose down duvet. I got Egyptian cotton sheets for it. And I started sleeping with my own single duvet. I gave him the Super King duvet and I started sleeping with a single duvet. Well, that just took sleeping to a whole other level. We both still say to this day, it's 6 months down the line, and Ryan even says, and it's very rarely that he will really say something was an absolute game changer. And he is like, this was the best decision we ever made for our marriage. We tell everybody about it. We're like, you need two duvets. And people go, really? Two duvets? They don't really believe just how miraculous it is. But I now have my own beautiful light duvet that I sleep with. I can kick it around. I can turn over in bed in the middle of the night and flip the duvet with me. There, I don't have to worry about pulling it off him or sliding around under the duvet. I have my own duvet. He has his own duvet. He can tuck it all in between his legs when he sleeps on his side. Gets absolutely comfortable. Hasn't ruined our relationship in any way. Single duvets, or give your partner, or you take the big one and let them have the little one. It's warmer. It's more comfortable. You have a far better sleep. So I can honestly say now, I love going to bed at night because I put on my eye mask, I put in my earplugs. Quite often, sometimes I'm really tired and I go to bed at like 8:30 or 9 p.m. and Ryan's not ready to go to sleep yet. See, whenever you have earplugs and an eye mask, he can be on his phone. He can be, like watching movies. Whenever you're trying to get to sleep and someone's watching something on their phone and it keeps flickering, the light flickers and it catches, your closed eyes. Nothing worse. Completely gone now. I put on my eye mask and my earplugs. I get into bed and I am gone. Whenever Ryan's parents were staying with us from Australia, his dad was really, really ill whenever he was with us. And his mum came in the middle of the night and said to Ryan, I think your dad needs to go to hospital. He's really ill. Ryan got up in the middle of the night, took his mum and dad to A&E, was in A&E with them, came back into the room, got into bed at whatever time, 6 o'clock in the morning, went back to sleep for an hour. Whenever we woke up then, like an hour later, 5, maybe he came back. He was away from 2 a.m. to 5 p.m. I didn't even know. I was sound asleep. I didn't hear a single thing. Ryan was up, his mum having a conversation with his mum in the room. He went to A&E. His dad was fine, by the way. He came back. He got into bed. He fell back to sleep. I didn't hear a thing. He still tells this story. He was like, Kim slept through the entire thing. I woke up in the morning. I was like, you were in A&E for 3 hours last night. You had a full conversation with your mum. I was out for the count, completely oblivious, did not hear a thing. And so, if you want to improve your sleep, let me tell you, persevere with earplugs, a silk eye mask, and your own duvet. And you can write to me and thank me later because your life is going to change. Okay, what else have we got? Moving on. Right, let's move on to, well, while we're on the subject of sleep, actually, I'm going to jump forward to something I was going to talk about at the end and I'll come back. I'm going to talk about meal planning and I'm going to talk about work. So, let's talk about sleep. One of the things that I love to do is have a drink. I'm Irish. We love to drink. I don't know why people have like, or everyone at the minute is like, oh, alcohol is so damaging for your brain and you shouldn't drink. And everyone's all about giving up drink. I don't know. Maybe these people are like or like borderline alcoholic, and so they really want to give up. Whereas I'm not borderline alcoholic. Alcohol is very accepted here in Ireland. Even whenever you're pregnant, the advice from the doctors is have a couple of drinks, but don't get drunk. Like in America, I remember being in America and I was pregnant with my daughter. I was 32 weeks pregnant and we went out for dinner one night and I ordered a beer and they asked me for ID and I was like, ID? Like I'm 32 years of age. What do you want a beer? What do you want ID for? Not a beer. What do you want ID for? And whenever I was telling my American friend about it afterwards, she said to me, oh no, Kim, it's because you're pregnant. And I went, well, what does that matter? And she said, they don't want to serve you alcohol. So she was trying to make it difficult for you. If you hadn't had ID, she wouldn't have served you alcohol. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Whereas in Ireland, no one would bat an eyelid if you have a glass of wine when you're pregnant or a beer when you're pregnant. Whereas in America, it's like, don't drink, you'll harm your baby, you'll kill your baby. Whereas here, we're like, have a couple of drinks, but don't get drunk. So I drank all the way through all my pregnancies, and all my kids are perfectly normal, highly intelligent human beings. Didn't do them a button of harm. So anyway, that isn't the point. I'm not saying drink when you're pregnant. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is I like to drink, right? I like to drink alcohol. I don't like to drink a huge amount of alcohol, but I like to have sometimes two, sometimes three glasses of champagne. I always say 3 drinks is my limit. I like to have 3 gin and tonics or 3 glasses of champagne or 3 beers. Any more than that, and you're moving into, okay, I'm here to get smashed territory. And don't get me wrong, I do love to get smashed every so often, but very, very infrequently these days, because really, honestly, the hangover just isn't worth it. I live a very purposeful, energetic life. Like I love to train, I work, I need lots of energy for what I do. I don't want to wake up in the morning feeling like shit. But I love to drink and I love to have the buzz of alcohol. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I love the when the alcohol hits your blood and you have that lovely wash of alcohol over you and you're like, "Ooh, it's so nice and everything seems so rosy and so wonderful." I love the buzz from having a drink, but I don't want the side effects. I don't want the hangover. Now, what I realized was, so I was like, okay, well, how can I drink? Again, me with my life hacks. How can I drink and have what I want, which is the buzz from having 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 drinks, but not have any of the negative side effects? So I began to look into, well, what causes the negative side effects? Dehydration. Biggest one that causes negative side effects the next day is dehydration. People don't drink water when they're drinking. It's not enough to drink all night and then drink water just before you go to sleep. That's not enough. You have to keep your body hydrated while you're drinking. It doesn't make you feel any less drunk. You still have a great time. You still feel on top of the world. You still get the buzz from the alcohol, but you don't get the nasty effect the next day. So whenever you're drinking, you must have 1 glass of water for every drink. And the best and most achievable way to do this is if you're sitting at home having a drink. So let's say you bring in a bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne or a bottle of beer. Bring in a bottle of water, a carafe of water. I always bring in like a carafe of water, sparkling water. I love sparkling water. I bring in a bottle of sparkling water and a glass, and I will fill my glass So I will drink a glass of champagne and then I will pick up my glass of sparkling water and I will down it in one go. Bum. And then I will fill up my champagne glass. And then after that's finished, I will pick up the glass of water and I will down it in one go. It's the same as if we ever go out for drinks. If we ever go out for dinner, the first thing I do is say, can you bring a bottle of sparkling water, please? Can you bring another bottle of sparkling water, please? I will drink at dinner. If we're out having dinner and having a couple of drinks, I will at dinner drink a full liter usually. A bottle of sparkling water is usually about 750 ml. I will usually drink 1.5 bottles of sparkling water at dinner. At dinner alone, I will drink a full liter of sparkling water if we are out for dinner. And that is the absolute and utter game changer for not having a hangover. You are not dehydrated, so you don't have a hangover. And you just have to get yourself into the system of ordering water. Whenever I take the staff out in our Christmas do, I like ply them with copious amounts of champagne and cocktails. And I just say, keep bringing the water, keep bringing the water, keep bringing the water. And as they fill up everyone's glasses, we usually have a big drinks reception, then we have dinner. As they fill up everyone's glasses, I'm getting them to fill up everyone's water glass, fill up the water glasses, fill up the water glasses. So everyone is constantly drinking water while they're drinking. You keep them hydrated, you keep them healthy. That's the first one. Second one is if you enjoy drinking, one of the things that ruins your sleep is alcohol. So I was like, okay, how can I not ruin my sleep while having alcohol? So what I realized a few years ago was that also, do you ever get the thing where you've had a few drinks and then you go to sleep and you fall asleep quite quickly because the alcohol makes you sleep, but then you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep. It's almost like ping, you're awake. And then it's almost like your hangover has kicked in and you can't get back to sleep for several hours. Well, years ago, I realized that if I kept two paracetamol by my bed or two ibuprofen by the bed, quite strong ones, 500 milligram, if I took two of those the minute I woke up in the middle of the night, like woke up, shit, I'm awake, two paracetamol, drink of water, within 30 minutes, those would kick in and I would go back to sleep very quickly. So that was my hack for a while for getting back to sleep very quickly. And then I would wake up feeling moderately refreshed. Well, then I thought afterwards, well, what if I took two paracetamol or two ibuprofen before I go to bed, right? So I'll take two of them before I go to bed, and then if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll take two more. Now, this is where I said we're getting unorthodox. People like, oh my god, all those painkillers, they're non anti-inflammatory steroids, and you shouldn't be taking all those. They're bad for your liver. I do a lot of fucking things that are bad for my liver. This is not the health podcast. This is the life hack podcast. So if you're not a drinker and you're like, I'm going to unfollow her now because this is very, very, very bad advice, no problem at all. Okay. I get it. Or you could just pass this along to a friend who does drink and, they're going to thank you for it. So I thought, what if I take two paracetamol before I go to bed and then I'll take two more in the middle of the night if I wake up? Well, quite often when I took two high strength ibuprofen before I went to bed, I didn't even wake up in the middle of the night. And then as soon as I wake up in the morning, I would take two more. And that just takes the edge off any hangover that you have. And it just dulls all the receptors. And suddenly you feel amazing. So that was kind of the next stage of like, okay, this is great. I can take two before I go to bed. Then one day, I went to take, we were out for dinner, we'd had a few drinks, and I say not loads, but just enough that I knew that it was going to affect my quality of sleep. So I thought, what if I take two cocodamol? So codamol have codeine in them, okay? And you can buy them over the counter. I'm not talking about the high strength cocodamol they give you after you've had an operation. I'm talking about the over the counter cocodamol, right? Cocodamol with paracetamol. So I was like, what if I take two cocodamol, two low strength cocodamol, and I do that before I go to bed? Well, let me tell you, that was the clinker. That was the game changer. Codeine has a slight sedative effect. So if you take two cocodamol before you go to sleep, over the counter, 500 milligram cocodamol, you sleep all night. You don't wake up. Cocodamol literally just takes the edge off whatever it is, the stimulant that pings your receptors that makes you wake up in the middle of the night, and you sleep the whole night through. Funny story on I was out on Saturday night there, went out had a big blowout, had actually quite a lot of alcohol. I don't even know how many, but the only thing they had was vodka and Coke. So I was drinking vodka and Coke because we had a couple of gins before we went out, two gins before we went out. And then I think I must have had, I'm sure I had 6 vodka and Cokes whenever I was out because we were at a concert and I was out for a big blowout, right? So I got into bed about midnight. And before I got into bed, I took 2 cocodamol and I then got into bed at midnight, whatever. And Laura here in the office, Laura, my director of training, she and I are connected on our Aura rings, right? So the Aura ring will will monitor your sleep. So she and I are connected in the Aura rings. And she said to me on Monday morning, she goes, "You're such a bitch." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because I went on to check into circles to check your sleep scores and your recovery scores from the weekend." She said, "Because I was like, kind of feeling a bit smug because she's pregnant, not sleeping well." She said, I was kind of feeling smug because I thought, oh, Kim's sleep score and recovery score is going to be shit. She was like, "Your fucking sleep score was 89 and your recovery score was 77, which is quite high for if you've had alcohol. Or actually, I think it was 82 maybe." And she was like, "Yours was higher than mine." And I was laughing my head off. I was like, "Laura, you know me, plenty of water, 2 cocoa before I went to sleep." I said, "Fell asleep at midnight. I woke at 8, went back to sleep, woke at 9, went back to sleep, slept till 10." I said, "I slept for 10 full hours." She couldn't believe it. She was like, "I absolutely hate you and your life hacks." So 2 cocoa before you go to sleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, buck 2 more painkillers into you. People are going, "Is that not really dangerous?" Let me tell you, 4 painkillers in a week is not going to fucking kill you. Your liver can cope with painkillers, right? As long as you're doing everything else in your life which is healthy, which I am, because like let me just caveat this by saying I am metabolically optimized. I have a lot of muscle. I am very fit. I train every day. I eat a very healthy, nutritionally balanced diet. I am very metabolically optimized. My liver is in tip top health. How do I know? Because I get regular blood work done. And whenever they test my liver, they're like, "Your liver is in top notch condition." I'm like, "Thank you. Excellent." Because I take care of my body. If you are not so healthy every day of your life and you're kind of, carrying excess body fat and you're unfit and you don't train and your diet leaves a lot to be desired, then yeah, I can maybe say, well, why overload your body with more? Maybe you should look at why, you're drinking too much or why you're dependent on painkillers, whatever. That's not the person I'm talking to here. I'm talking about the person who's metabolically optimized, that's who this advice is for. If you are unhealthy, unfit, overweight, verging on alcoholism, you should definitely sort your shit out, right? And not listen to, not listen to what I'm saying here. This is not a life hack for you to be able to be even more unhealthy. These are life hacks for the healthy to remain healthy. Okay. If you're unhealthy, you need to sort that shit out and then come back to this podcast. So cocodamol before you go. So alcohol, water whenever you're drinking, really important. Then you don't wake up dehydrated. You don't wake up with a hangover. Cocodamol before you go to sleep will help you to sleep all night. What else have I written here? Oh yeah, the last one I'm going to link to it in the show notes. So a very good friend of mine, Michaela Peterson, she and her husband launched a company, Fuller Health. She's now Michaela Fuller because she's married, but she and her husband Jordan launched a company called After Party. Now, After Party is a supplement that you can take, which will help your body, help your liver to break down acetaldehyde, which is a byproduct of alcohol. So, alcohol is actually toxic for the liver. So, whenever you drink alcohol, your liver has to very quickly metabolize that alcohol to make it safe because the byproduct of the alcohol in your liver is acetaldehyde. So, what the After Party does is it has an enzyme in it which literally it helps flood your liver with the enzyme that it makes anyway to break down the acetaldehyde, and it neutralizes the effects of the alcohol. So they developed this incredible supplement, diomycetrin, I think it is. And they developed this incredible supplement that if you take 3 of them before you go to sleep, 3 tablets before you go to sleep, and another 3 whenever you wake up, literally helps your liver to clear out the alcohol very, very quickly. I have a discount code for you. I think I earn an affiliate commission as well from it. If you use my discount code, I'm going to link to it in the show notes. After Party is absolutely phenomenal. So that's my drinking protocol. It's water with every single drink, then 2 cocodamol and 3 After Party before I go to sleep. And then if I need to in the morning, 2 paracetamol whenever I wake up and 3 more After Party. And you will never, ever, ever have a hangover for the rest of your life. You are welcome. Okay. Let's move on to meal planning. This is something that many, many people struggle with. And it always baffles me when people struggle with it because it's never anything that I've struggled with because, again, I systematize everything. So I realized recently how people just don't systematize things. They live at the effect of their life. They just, believe that they cannot manage to make things happen because life happens to them rather than them making life happen. But I have always had a system for meal planning. Now, at the minute, I have a private chef. I've worked very hard to have a private chef, but before I had a private chef, I did all my cooking and I systematized everything. So I'm going to give you a system for meal planning, which is going to blow your mind. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. So, whenever I did all the cooking for my family, I used to have, well, I still have 4 kids, but my kids were very young. I had 4 kids under the age of 6. So I was at home, stay at home mum, trying to start and run a business, which I was whenever, years ago. It took me a long time to build the Sculpted Vegan. And I was trying to start and grow a business and take care of my 4 young children, and also then clean the house, cook the food, and do everything that a homeschooling mom of 4 has to do for 4 kids under the age of 6. And I realized that one of the things I was really struggling with was food prep, was making healthy dinners, putting a healthy dinner on the table every night, because it was killing me to do so. It was just hard to find the time to prep the food. The baby's crying. I'm trying to breastfeed while I'm cooking and hold the baby, you know what I mean, and deal with all the mess and everything that's going on with the kids and all the rest of it. So I sat down one day. I was like, there has to be a better way. I have to be planned in advance, because what is it they say? Planning to feel is no, feeling to plan is planning to fail. So I was like, let's sit down and let's get this planned out. So what I did was, I first of all looked at my calendar and I said, okay, I'm going to get ahead of the game here, and I'm going to cook dinner every morning. And I'm going to set aside time in the morning to cook dinner in the evening. And I'm going to do it when the baby's asleep. So, because obviously the baby always had, or quite often they were all young, they were still napping. A lot of them were still napping during the day. So, I knew that I could put Maya in front of the TV. She was only 21 months. I think, was she even whenever Jack was born? Not even. Can't remember anyway. She was, well, now I have to think about it. What was she? 13 months when I got pregnant with him. So she wasn't. She was, yeah. She was just under. She was, yeah, 20 months. She wasn't even 2 yet whenever Jack was born. So I could put her in front of the TV, and I could. And then Jack went down for a nap in the morning. So I thought, I'm going to cook whenever Jack is going down for a nap. In fact, I used to do the laundry in the morning. I used to get it all out of the way whenever they were fresh and playing in the morning, instead of just sitting around with a cup of coffee and, kind of scrolling on my phone or whatever. Wasn't a lot of scrolling happening then 13 years ago, because we didn't have social media the way we have it. But rather than waste the morning, I decided I'm going to be proactive. So I got up in the morning with the kids, 6 o'clock, whatever, and immediately I started doing laundry. When I say doing laundry, I don't mean just putting on a load of laundry. I mean, I finished the laundry for the day. I put the laundry on, I hung up the other laundry, or I, folded the other laundry. I did the ironing, and I went to the bedrooms and I put all the laundry away. And I did all that within, I would say, 60 to 90 minutes in the morning. Laundry completely finished. Then I started to cook dinner. I prepped. I either cooked a slow cook meal that could be made in the evening, cook all day, or I did a casserole, or I prepped dinner for the evening. I chopped the vegetables, I prepped things. I set aside 45 to 60 minutes in the morning to cook dinner for that night, to get it out of the way. But here's what I did, which was a game changer. I sat down on a Sunday with all my cookbooks. So I lifted out a whole pile of cookbooks and I went through all the cookbooks, and I decided what I was going to cook for dinner each evening. And I pulled out each recipe and I was like, oh, I like that. Look at that. I like the look of that. Oh, that can be made, and that the sauce can be left off for the kids, or that can be substituted with that, because Jack doesn't like that, but he likes that. So I would have sat down and meal prepped in the evening, or sorry, meal prepped on a Sunday, or meal planned on a Sunday, planned the recipes that I was going to cook during the week. Once I had planned the recipes, I then wrote down the shopping list. So I wrote down, so I'd say the recipe was some kind of casserole. Okay. I would have written down all the ingredients that I needed for the casserole, and, like tomatoes, potatoes, lentils, the exact amount, right? Okay, for one recipe. Then I took out the next recipe and I wrote down all the ingredients for that. If some of the ingredients were doubled up, let's say I needed, like a kilo of potatoes for one recipe. Let's say it was a shepherd's pie. I needed a kilo of potatoes for that recipe, but in the other recipe, I needed 2 potatoes. I just added 2 more potatoes onto the amount of potatoes that I needed. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I amalgamated the ingredients that I needed across all the recipes, and I, wrote down the other ingredients that I needed for the new ones. So I had a shopping list now of all the ingredients that I needed to make. And then I took the dishes that I was going to make and I put them into my diary every day. So Monday was lasagna, Tuesday, shepherd's pie, Wednesday, spaghetti bolognese, Thursday, seitan chicken casserole, Friday, pizza. So, so I wrote it into the calendar so I could see what I was cooking every single day. Then I went on to the online grocery store, Tesco, and I did my online shopping. And I booked a slot every Monday to arrive every Monday morning. So I went on with my grocery list and I ordered all of the ingredients that I needed to make all of the food for the whole week. And whenever you do this, you don't then just chuck shit in your basket and go, oh, maybe I'll do that. Oh, maybe I'll do something with that. Oh, that looks kind of nice. I'll do that. So you end up with a whole pile of ingredients, some of which that you never use and get thrown in the bin. Every single ingredient was being used and had been, assigned to a recipe. The ingredients arrived on a Monday morning, and then I put them all in the fridge, and then I knew exactly what I was cooking every single day. It got cooked in the morning, the ingredients got used, the food got eaten, the leftovers got eaten for lunch the next day, and my meal planning system was absolutely flawless. And then quite often I would plan in, right, we'll go out for dinner on a Wednesday or we'll order pizza on a Saturday. So it was all counted into the diary and counted into the calendar Monday to Sunday. And I never wasted money on groceries because it was all planned and all the groceries got used. Here's where you can take meal planning to the next level, though. That was before I was counting macros and calories. A lot of people find it hard to count macros and calories. So I'm going to give you a system here, if you're into fitness, where you can create a macro and calorie counted meal plan so fast and so efficiently, it's going to blow your mind. This is what I do in my company. I started doing this years ago. I used to sit and write all the recipes myself. But I stopped doing this whenever ChatGPT came onto the scene. And this is how we crank out meal plans so goddamn fast, it would literally blow your mind. Because I cook a lot, I know what ingredients go with what spices will go with what. I have a good idea of spices. But even if you don't have a good idea of spices or quantities or whatever, you can absolutely still do this anyway. So if you want to create calorie and macro counted meal plans, you go into an app such as MyFitnessPal, or you use if you're a member of my app, so we have the Sculpted Menopause, you can use the macro calculator in the Sculpted Menopause, which is very similar to MyFitnessPal, to do this as well. So what you do is you say, okay, I want to eat X amount of calories. Let's say 1,800 calories a day, or let's say you're on a diet, you want to eat like 1,500 calories. So you plug your macros and calories into MyFitnessPal or into the Sculpted Menopause, 1,500 calories. And then you say, right, 40% protein, 30% fat, 30% carb. So let's say you're going to be having 120 grams of protein, 90 grams of carbs, and 40 grams of fat. Those are your macros that you're eating every day. That's just a number pulled off the top of my head. Maybe 150 grams of protein, 100 grams of carbs, 40 grams of fat, let's say. So you put those into MyFitnessPal. Then you go through each meal and you add the protein to each meal. So you go in and you say, okay, what protein am I having for breakfast? Well, let's say you're not vegan and you're going to have scrambled egg whites. So you put in one whole egg and 150 grams of egg whites. Okay, there's the protein. Then you go, what's my protein mid morning? I'm going to have a protein shake. Okay, so one scoop of or two scoops of vegan Wonder Shake, protein shake, right? That goes in. Lunch, what's the protein? I'm vegan, so I always have seitan. So let's say I'm putting in, one portion of seitan. If you're not vegan, then it could be one chicken breast, one steak, one turkey breast, whatever you eat whenever you're not vegan. Then you say, what protein am I having for dinner? And then you put in your protein for dinner. Again, for me, it's usually seitan or tofu. And then you say, what protein am I having in the evening? And so I usually then have a protein mousse, which is one scoop of double chocolate protein powder with 30 grams of peanut butter blended with water. Put it in the fridge in a glass, let it chill, and then you can mix a little bit of cocoa powder in with it as well. Take it out, and it is like a chocolate mousse parfait. Absolutely delicious. I have that every night. So you plan your protein 5 times a day in MyFitnessPal. And then you say, okay, now I've got my protein. What carbs am I going to have? So then you start to plan your carbs. So let's say you're going to have one piece of toast with your scrambled egg whites for breakfast. So you scan the bread, one piece of wholemeal toast, right? Okay, that goes in. Lunch, what carbs I'm going to have? Okay, well, let's play around. Let's do 100 and, not 120, that'd be too much. Let's say, 120 grams of cooked rice. You put that in, right? And as you do this, MyFitnessPal will be deducting these foods from the total. So then you say, okay, what carbs are we going to have for dinner? You're like, oh, I don't have a lot of carbs left after having the rice and the toast. What about sweet potatoes? You put in 150 grams of sweet potato. Great. Don't worry about how it's being cooked or whatever. You're just doing the raw ingredients, 150 grams of sweet potato. And then you go, do I have any carbs left over for my shake or my evening? No, I don't. That's all my carbs used up. Right. Fats. 30 grams of peanut butter, definitely going into my chocolate mousse in the evening. So you put that in. Then you go, well, I want to have vegan butter, real butter on my toast. What about if I have a teaspoon of butter in the toast? That goes in, 1 teaspoon of butter. Then you say, okay, I'm definitely going to need oil to cook my, seitan with or make my this or whatever. So you put in 1 tablespoon of oil. So you start playing around with the macros until the macros balance. And as you add and take away, and if you put in 180 grams of rice, you're like, oh shit, that's pushed me over my macros. Then you reduce it down. Well, what happened if I did 90 grams? Oh, 100 grams, 105 grams. Okay. So you play around with your macros until they're balanced. And then you look at it and you go, great. Now I have my 1,500 calorie meal plan. You don't put in your vegetables. Don't worry about any green cruciferous vegetables or onions or peppers. None of that, right? Don't put any of that in. You're just putting in your major macronutrients, your carbs, your fats, your proteins, right? Don't worry about broccoli, spinach, anything like that, the carbs, the calories in those really don't matter because a lot of them are fiber. So your body will simply will not absorb the fiber as calories. It'll just go through to be made into poop. So now you've got your macronutrients. Here's what you do. You pull out your phone, you open the Chat GPT app, and you say, create me a delicious, and I'll put the prompt in the show notes. Create me a delicious restaurant standard recipe from the following ingredients. Give the amounts in both grams and ounces, or if you want the amount in ounces, that's fine, or metric or imperial. You give it specifically and you say, with step by step instructions for how to cook each dish. Use any herbs and spices, use any 0-calorie herbs and spices that are needed to make the dish delicious, including, you can give them some examples. You could say, paprika, smoked paprika, or cumin if you wanted to, or you could just leave it up to ChatGPT. Use any herbs and spices, lemon juice, 0-calorie condiments or extras to make the dish delicious. 3, 2, 1, go. You put that in, and ChatGPT will spit you out a fucking amazing recipe. And you can also say, add any green cruciferous vegetables as needed to add to the dish. So you're literally putting, let's say you're not vegan and you're putting in a chicken breast, 1 tablespoon of oil, and 90 grams of cooked rice. Okay. Or 30 grams of uncooked rice. That's all you're plugging into ChatGPT, and it will spit you out an absolutely delicious recipe. And if you don't like the look of it, you can say, I don't like it, create me another one. Or you can say, create me a delicious restaurant standard Mexican inspired recipe, Vietnamese inspired recipe, Chinese inspired recipe. You can give it Portuguese inspired recipe. You can give it any amount of instructions and it will give you the recipe. And that is how you plan your macros and calories and create your own meal plan. You are welcome. I'm giving you all of my secrets for free. And then once you have the recipes, you simply cook the recipe and you can input, though you can keep the ingredients the same in MyFitnessPal and just create new recipes every single day if you want. And you have infinite amount of recipes. You do not need cookbooks anymore, ever. ChatGPT will just give you the recipes. Now, sometimes it gets it wrong and it'll put like a liter of water in something and you're like, okay, that doesn't look right. So you have to have a little degree of common sense or think, that isn't going to be good. Or sometimes it overuses the same spices all the time. You have to say, don't use those spices. Or sometimes it'll overuse ginger, fresh ginger. And so, but the only way that can figure that out is maybe to make the dish and go, okay, that was a little over seasoned, or it was a little over this. And then you can, change it as you go forward. But this is what we started doing for our recipes recently. We realized that our members wanted to mix and match the recipes. They wanted to follow. So quite often we would release, say, a 4-week shred program, and we would have 1,200 calorie meal plans. And someone would say, "Oh, can I take the breakfast from lunch, from week 1, and have the lunch from week 2 and the dinner from week 3?" And we used to be like, "Well, no, you can't because you couldn't because the macros in each meal were different. Like week one might have been oatmeal, for example, and week 2 was scrambled tofu for breakfast. So the macros of those meals didn't match. So they couldn't take a meal from here, a meal from here, and a meal from here and put them together and guarantee they were getting a calorie macro counted meal plan. So I came up with the genius idea of, why don't we just create the same food items and get ChatGPT to create us 4 new recipes for these items. And so we would put in oats, 30 grams of oats, some kind of plant milk, a scoop of peanut butter, teaspoon of peanut butter, a scoop of protein powder, and some chia seeds. And we would say, create me 4 different recipes for this. And ChatGPT would create me a cookie recipe, an oatmeal recipe, a pancake recipe, and something else. And so the macros stayed the same. Proteins, carbs, and fats stayed the same, but the recipe changed. So people could look at it and go, "Oh, well, I like the breakfast pancakes from week 3. I'm going to make those in week 1." So we gave them the ability to mix and match the meals. But what's interesting was the ingredients were exactly the same, but the ingredients but the recipe was different. Sometimes you were blending the oats, sometimes you were cooking them as oatmeal, but it gave people the freedom to cook whatever it was that they wanted. And this was inspired by our members, because what we realized was our members were being very innovative with the different recipes. They were saying, oh, well, I took the oats from that and I blended them up to make a powder. And then I did this and I made it into a bread or a cookie or a pancake. So we realized they were already taking the ingredients, the more innovative ones were taking the ingredients and changing them up anyway to be something that they wanted. And this was just astonishing to me. So we got the idea from the members, but that is how you create incredible meal plans which suit your taste from just basic ingredients. So you can literally just create your own macros in MyFitnessPal and then get ChatGPT to create you the recipes, and you never need to buy another meal plan again. And I'm going to put myself out of business telling you all this now, because you're not going to buy meal plans from me. Okay, what else have I written here? That's it. That's all about meal planning. Okay, where are we in time? Okay, we're getting close in time. The last thing that I wanted to cover in this, I guess, was really, there's two things I've written here. I've written work and training, but I'm never going to get through it all in this short time. So let me just talk about training, because this is kind of a health and fitness podcast. I'll do another work one another time for those of you who are interested in business stuff. So I my training really began to suffer recently. Like, really began to suffer. As in, like, I really stopped enjoying going to the gym. I find it such a chore. I was so busy in work. I just wanted to get in, get the work done, have the meetings. Meeting the wage bill every month was crippling. And so I stopped enjoying going to the gym. I stopped enjoying training. Work became kind of my sole focus. I'm changing all that at the minute. But what I what I realized was I was actually sacrificing my training, because one, I wasn't enjoying it, and two, I find it really hard to make time for it. But I believe that the way I was training, with high intensity training and high weights in the gym, was really the only way that I could do it to keep the body that I built and build muscle. Until about 3 months ago, I picked up a set of dumbbells and began to train with dumbbells, and my life has transformed ever since then. My body has transformed. I'm leaner. My clothes fit better. I burn more fat when I'm working out. It's absolutely astonishing. And so what I realized was there's more, I hate this saying, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay. There's more than one way to build muscle. You don't have to be evangelical about your training, and building muscle does not require going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week for an hour. I have a gym at home, but I was driving to the gym in Lisburn to train with my trainer. So it's 30 minutes there, an hour training session, or 45 minutes, and 30 minutes back. So my training was taking 2 full hours out of my day every day. And I just thought one day, what if I could make this faster, but just as efficient? So here's what I did. Rather than working with heavy weights, I went down to light weights and started to focus on form, but focused more on time under tension. So I don't mean slowing down the rep. What I mean is I started to do timed reps. So there's the ways you can build muscle is muscle response to stimulus. How you make the muscle grow is by placing more stimulus on the muscle and by gradually overloading it over time. It's called progressive overload. So you want to keep increasing the stimulus on the muscle over time. So what I always focused on was adding more load. That was the stimulus that I was focusing on. So adding more load, a couple more kilos or a couple more pounds, or another rep to my set. So I was always pushing for a little bit more each time. But I thought, what if I change that and I go and start doing timed sets? So rather than doing, as heavy as I could shoulder presses, what if I just did, a challenging weight for shoulder presses, but did it like for a full minute and then rested for 30 seconds and then did it again and did 3 sets of that? What would happen then? So I started to train at home with dumbbells, doing timed sets, 1 minute on, 30 seconds off, 1 minute on, 30 seconds off, 3 sets of each exercise with a lighter weight. And see, by the end of the third set of the exercise, my muscles were burning. They were burning in a way that I never expected. My legs were in agony. My glutes were in agony. My shoulders were in agony. It was astonishing to me how effective I could make training. And you know what? I stopped dreading it, because I could get through the training session in 30 to 40 minutes max. That's it. 30 minutes from start to finish, 30 minutes max. And I wasn't looking at these enormous weights going, Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I wasn't going through the anxiety of having to get under that machine with these enormous weights that was really just taking a toll on my mental well-being as well as my physical well-being. My body wasn't recovering as well as it used to. My body is more inflamed in menopause. Whenever you're in menopause, your body creates insulin resistance and diverts more energy to fat stores to create more metabolically active fat, which is called estrone, which is a weaker form of estrogen. Estrone is actually very inflammatory for the body. So if you have a lot of belly fat, your body will be producing a lot of estrone, and estrone is very, very inflammatory. So you really want to get rid of that belly fat through diet and exercise and increasing your muscle mass in order to reduce inflammation in the body. Belly fat equals inflammation. So I had started to feel inflamed. Stopped enjoying going to the gym. I stopped enjoying training. My body hurt, my mind hurt, everything hurt. So I started training with timed dumbbell sets at home. And my body has literally transformed. My delts have grown. It's funny. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually, you can see I'm flexing at the minute. You can't see it if you're listening to podcast, but my biceps have grown. My delts have grown. They're more defined, which I really love because I've got that lovely cap on the top of my shoulders. My back isn't as big, which is great because I can fit into all of my really expensive jackets. My legs look amazing because they're not bulky anymore. They have lovely quad definition. My glutes have lifted because I'm training glutes like 2, 3 times a week. These real female centric specific exercises that I'm doing now to lengthen that and strengthen the hamstrings, to build the quads, to lift the booty, to give me lovely shoulders but not a massive back. My chest isn't anywhere near as big as it used to be, which I'm happy about because my chest was beginning to look like a man's. Changing the way I train not only cut out an enormous amount of time, it started to change my body in ways that were so pleasing to me. But best of all, I don't dread training and I'm not destroyed. I'm not destroyed. I actually enjoy going into the gym. Women used to say to me, "Oh my God, I really love going to the gym." And I used to look at them and think, how can you enjoy going to the gym? You must be lying. There's no way you can enjoy going to the gym because I used to dread going to the gym because of the weight that I was lifting. Now because I'm not lifting that weight anymore, but because I'm, just focusing on the time, and it's like, okay, do I have one more rep? Do I have one more rep? Do I have one more rep? It's not taking a toll on my central nervous system, not having to gear myself up to lift these weights. I'm just having to kind of get through, almost like endure, if you like, or endure, as they say in America, just getting through the the set, getting through the 60 seconds. And that is absolutely 100% achievable in a way that it just wasn't with the heavy weights. So if you are feeling like I am, if you are time starved, you don't like going to the gym, you're feeling like it's really tough going to the gym, you're finding it emotionally or physically draining, I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, Be Sculpted by Kim, and look up some of my free workouts. There's loads of free workouts in there. I put my dumbbell workouts on there for free. There's cardio workouts, there's dumbbell workouts, they're all beginner workouts, there's full body workouts. There's so many workouts on there. Go and check out my free workouts on YouTube. Try them. Even if you're a gym rat like I am and you're like, oh no, I couldn't not go to the gym, try these. You can, if you want, you can still go to the gym and train legs, right? If you're like, I can't do legs properly at home, first of all, I challenge you to try my workouts because I still want to train really hard. I challenge you to try my workouts. You will be shocked at how sore your legs are because let me tell you, I don't like when I train hard. Okay. So, but you don't feel beaten up afterwards. And I actually make it really fun. So if you're the kind of person who is like, oh my God, going to the gym is really, it's crushing me. It takes so much time. I don't even know what to do. I want to build my body, but I want to do it when it's fun. Come and try and work out with me. Try these 30-minute workouts. Your body will change. You will burn so much fat. You will have so much fun by doing it. You can change the angles of the dumbbells. If you have frozen shoulder, you have tennis elbow, or you have, hip impingements, or you have, back issues, you can change up what you're doing to suit your body in a way that you really can't with the machines in the gym. And I promise you, you're going to absolutely love them. So how are we finishing up what I'm talking about here? I guess I just want to finish by saying, the crux of this whole podcast is you are in the driver's seat of your life. You have the power to change anything that you're not happy with. You can, if you are dedicated to figuring your shit out, if you're dedicated to solving problems, if you're dedicated to being pain free, and living a happier and more joyful life, which is really why we're all here. I just want to be pain free, happy, live a happy and joyful life, and but still have a little bit of fun while I'm doing it. I want to drink a bit of alcohol. I want to stay up late. I want to party. I want to have fun, right? But I don't want to hurt my body when I'm doing it. You can have these things. Like the human body is meant for struggle. It's built for struggle. We're not built to have a really comfortable, easy life. We're built for struggle. So don't treat your body too well. It's good to challenge your body and make it like work as hard as it can possibly work, because the body is built for struggle. But if you can do that, but optimize your recovery, optimize your sleep, optimize your health while you're doing it, you will have a long and healthy life so you can have fun and not hurt your body while doing it. And that is the goal of my whole life. And there are so many things there are so many things I didn't talk about in this podcast that I've written down. I just run out of time. If you like this, I'll definitely do another one. I'll do a life hack one talking about my supplements, my GLP-1s. I've been taking Ozempic for a while now. It's been transformative, BPC 157, a peptide for regeneration and tissue repair. You know, absolutely phenomenal. The life hacks that I could give you for ways that I have solved the problems that come up in my life are amazing. I just solve problems. When I have a problem, I solve it. And then I note that this could be a problem for the future. So I put in a system to have the solution in place for if it ever happens again. Okay. Um, what do I mean by that? Very quickly, antibiotics. Sometimes you need antibiotics. Sometimes you need antibiotics for a chest infection, ear infection, or a UTI. So what I do is I will, if I ever, quite often I will get antibiotics from the doctor. I will make up an illness, right, to get antibiotics from the doctor, and then I will keep them in a drawer for a time when I need them in the future. Or if they're ever prescribed for the kids and then it turns out the kids didn't need them, I put them in the drawer. So I always have antibiotics at hand. I have anti-sickness tablets at hand. I have creams and lotions and potions at home. They call it Kim's Dispensary. I literally have a pharmacy in my house for if anyone has an ailment, I have the cure for it, because I don't want to be ever at a time in my life where I need a doctor and I don't have one. The other thing I also have is private doctors. I have private doctors on call, like on speed dial, that will literally give you a prescription. Like I'm going off on a tangent here, but my sister messaged me the other week and she said, do you have progesterone? And I said, no, I don't take progesterone as a supplement by itself. She said, oh my God, we are going on vacation and my sister-in-law has, run out of progesterone and it's a bank holiday on Monday. She can't get any more. And she needs her repeat prescription. Do you know anyone would have any? And I said, no, but I can get her a prescription. And she went, how? And I said, one of my private doctors. So I sent her the number of my private doctor who had a consultation on the phone. This is possible, by the way, in the UK. You have private doctors that'll have phone consultations with you. He had a consultation on the phone with her sister-in-law and he prescribed her the progesterone that she takes. And then he met her the next day and gave her the prescription, and she went and got the prescription from the chemist. And I think it cost her, I don't even know how much it cost her, like 60 quid or something. And my sister was like blown away. She was like, I didn't even know this was possible. I said, of course it's possible. There are private clinics all over the place. I have a private menopause doctor. There's the Hollywood Private Clinic, which is in the Culloden Hotel if you're in Northern Ireland. There's a clinic there called the Hollywood Private Clinic. You can see a GP there same day. You don't need to wait for your doctor. Yes, you have to pay for it. It's about £90, but if you're in need, 90 quid is worth it. So, there's so many things that you can do to take control of your life that a lot of people don't even know about. You're not at the mercy of the NHS. You're not at the mercy of the doctors. You're not at the mercy of your boss or your husband snoring. You can take control of your life and make changes anytime you want. The problem is most of us are just too scared. We were taught in schools and by our parents and by the authority in our lives that we have to listen to the authorities and we can't break the rules and we have to follow the system or something bad will happen. Bull fucking shit. It's not true. They just indoctrinated that into you to keep you small and following the rules and doing what the government says. You're a grown ass woman. You can do whatever the fuck you want in your life. A lot of swearing in today's podcast. It means I'm very emphatic. I told you I'm premenstrual. So there's a lot of, this is the no shit podcast. You are a grown ass woman. You can do whatever the fuck you want in your life. Take control, look at options, never accept the first answer that you're told. Get the information, ask loads of opinions, and then make up your own mind for your own body for what is right for you. That is what I do. It makes you very, very happy when you release any fear of what other people will think or say or do. There is a level of freedom that comes with that I can't even describe to you. You will only understand it when you have it. So I encourage you to have that level of freedom in your life, to take control of your own life, of your own destiny. You get one shot at this life, one fucking shot, and then it's gone. So don't live your life for anyone else. Live your life for yourself. Optimize your sleep, optimize your health, optimize systematize everything in your life and have a hell of a lot of fun while you're doing it. So that's the end of today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please do me a favor. Please, 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 please. Okay. Unashamedly share this podcast with someone that you think will enjoy it. Just click the link, share it, and say, "This girl is a fucking rocket. I think you'll love her. I would love to share this with you." Why do I want you to share it? Because it helps me build my profile, build my business, helps me make more money. When I have more money, I can do more good in the world and I can bring more good stuff to you. Why else? What else do I want you to do? Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Or if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, hit subscribe, share the channel with your friends. I would love you to. I want to help more women. Ultimately, I want to help more women. That's what I want to do. So subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave me a comment. The more comments we have, the more YouTube thinks that this is a what worthy podcast to share with other people. So even just drop a comment and be like, "Fuck him, loved it." Life hacks, just like doesn't have to be a long, just like life hacks, right? Life hacks from Kim, love it, or something in the comments, just something, because YouTube will then drive this podcast to more people because it thinks that it's worthy, and that's ultimately the goal. I want to share these life hacks with women who can help them, and then also help myself as well. I'm nothing if but not honest. Okay, thank you so much for listening. This was so much fun to record. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day, an awesome rest of the week, wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening. This is Kim Constable, over and out. And I will see you next time for another episode of the Kim Constable podcast. Bye for now.